Welcome to the Startup Grind.
I'm Susannah Cole, co-owner of Jack and Jane Sport and Jackrabbit Race Timing.
I'm Ron Lowen, and I had the opportunity to sit with this very, very smart woman and work out on some of the great people who came here to give her successful ideas. And it was wonderful what you've done here.
Thank you. But they want to consign it. Some of it's very expensive stuff, and so if they can get it at a bargain, and then why not? We just obviously would make sure they're clean and frankly odor free. But I think that's a good component to add to it too. So I've been sending out feelers with the people I know who've got plenty of it and who are market influencers who can kind of spur their colleagues on to get me going. And I think I just need to figure out how to work the tech around it to make it, workable on a larger scale. And I would love to talk to you at some point. But again, that's where we're probably going to go, just to tweak it. And I'm always, again, what can we do? Every couple weeks, I say, all right, what's our state of the business? What do we need to do? What do we need to be moving on? So I'm not complacent one way or the other. I mean, there's always room to sort of examine what's actually happening in the business and what trends you're spotting in your business, either for better or for worse, and try to fix it if you need to.
What's the biggest hurdle that you face now?
Right now, it's just getting the word out as a new business. I mean, there's always ways to grow. So marketing costs, trying to figure out what's the most productive use of our budget is one way. I have differing opinions now on print advertising versus digital advertising. Again, that's always the idea. Marketing is always a struggle. I mean, we've talked about everything's sales. Ultimately, at the end of the day, everything's sales. But I am not a saleswoman. I'm not very good at it. I'll be the first to say. If someone comes in there and they try something on and it looks horrible on them, I'm going to say, you know what, let's keep going. Maybe that's not your best look. Or if a pair of shoes clearly do not work for their feet because they've got, they made their ankles roll in, but they're trying on a neutral shoe, but it's just really cute and it's pink and it's the one they want. I'm just saying, that's not a good idea. You're going to be hurting in a couple days. So I will talk people out of sales. My numbers could be better if I didn't do that. But again, that's a way that even though I'm on the sales floor is one thing, but marketing the business in a larger scale is a different component that is always a struggle. And unless you're extremely successful, I imagine you're always concerned about marketing.
I think Laura probably put this in here. She said, what's your favorite part of doing this business work?
The favorite part about owning your own business is being able to stop and hire an employee so you can go pick your son up from school if you happen to be a mom. If you don't happen to be a mom, it may be because you want to go do whatever on the weekends or you want to go do whatever you can. That's the best part about owning your own business is the flexibility, certainly. But mind you, I mean, I may pick him up from school, but then I may be working later that night, and I'm taking it home with me. And in the middle of the night, I'm waking up thinking, I wonder if those lights I left on are going to burn the store down. And then I think, I have insurance, so it's okay. And then I think, how much insurance do I have? And could this be a good thing? So while there are plenty of pros about owning your own business, there's also lots of things that run through your head in the middle of the night. So there's pluses and there's minuses.
Do you feel like you're making the progress you need to go forward? Are you still in the game?
That's a tough question, actually. This many years into it, again, it's not so much fun anymore. I mean, it's fun. You're passionate about it. But again, some of the newness of it has worn off. I think we're doing well for the business that we're in. But I'm not a very patient woman. So I constantly have to, my business partner here will say, okay, let's pump the brakes on some of those ideas. And just remember where we came from, remember where we are, what the goal is, and I'm just kind of okay. What can happen now? So my challenge myself is to kind of let my patience calm down a little bit, get it in check, and I think I should be happy with where we are. Whether or not I am happy with where we are, two different questions.
Well, I've heard you talk about a lot of interesting ideas. Maybe going to sorority girls and take this product that is unique and bringing them in to the university area, which is and it just starts ideas to flow. Now, some of them can't necessarily be done. It's a little bit, you got to work through it. But what I've been very pleased to see is over this day and or 2 weeks or so that I've spent with you, you are innovative and you want to. there's so many things you want to do. There's so many things you have to do right now, and to take that next big idea is tough. Might be something that'll make a big difference, but there's a chance that it could be a great idea, but it isn't going to work. And time is important, in getting the revenue in, and all those kinds of things. But you've got the heart for it. You know, you are a person who's interested in being a startup, and looking at the conventional piece that you've got some interesting things you can do. And you showed me what you're doing now with people are coming in after they have runs and so forth, and you can go in a different place. There's also something else. Way out in the other part of the county, there is a woman that I watched come in who knew everything about what your products were, very concerned about what's going to be coming next. I love what you're doing. You know, this is what the small, very, very one-to-one entrepreneur can be successful. But you've got to make those decisions and those things that make it go forward one time at a time. And it might be just one or two times in a time when they come into the story. You got to be tough when you do this. You know, your mom is, it's tough to do this. But she's a hard-working person like you are, I understand.
He's not impressed. It's if there was definitely also the best part about the business, in addition to the flexibility, is the relationships that you're able to form. And I believe it was Hal Turner who said, just work on your relational database. And I'm not sure if he was talking about data itself or he was talking about relationships. Everybody I've met along the way, other business owners, customers, that sort of thing, that's just keep filing it wherever you need to file it. But those people are going to come back around, particularly if you're in a small town where you have a brick and mortar store. And well, with e-commerce is the same thing, because you build relationships, you know, in various online forums. But those relationships matter a lot. And certainly the more you can build, the more you can connect with people at whatever level, the better off you're going to be.
There are a lot of very, very smart people in this room. I'm even talking about you, Bill, up there. I hired him to come in, so we can do that. Smartest one I've ever made. What do you see? I'm going to take this mic up, or have one of the people here. What you've got this woman who's worked hard and has some real success that's coming. You're a real, I guess, something that can be very helpful to her. So can you give us some of the things that you've listened to what's going on with her, what your thinking is about how she can move forward as she's in her first stage, a little more than that, and has survived and has good customers and wants to go farther. We've got these smart people here. Raise up your hand and I'll hand this mic to you.
So I guess we're asking if there are any questions out there.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Oh, they're going to do that. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Peter Rallis. I also have startup. My question is, did you need investors in the beginning? And if you did, how did you get to your first evaluation?
No. I bet the farm on this business. And you know, I thought about that. I thought about the bank. It was not going to be, there were not going to be no angel investors from this business. It wasn't scalable enough at the time. Not the e-commerce wasn't expensive enough that I needed an investor of that level. The brick and mortar certainly was. This is not that kind of business that I would expect to go out and pitch an idea to some sort of VC firm and just pray that they would like me enough to do it and they would see the value. I knew it wouldn't. It wasn't big enough. So I took my the college fund that had been created for me when I was younger. That fortunately I was lucky enough to get some scholarship money, so I didn't have to tap into that college fund. And so it was there, and I decided, okay, again, this could be the reason why my parents weren't overly thrilled with this decision. But I said, that's right. That's right. So I decided that was good. That was going to be what I was going to use to fund the business, and so I was self-funded. I still did the business plan. I still, was at the same time considering the idea of trying to get a loan. I investigated all the small business loan options, and maybe I could be a woman-owned business, whether or not that was going to be an approach I was going to take. All great ideas. But for me, the fastest thing to do, and here's my patience problem again, the fastest thing for me to do was to use my own money to do it. And again, I started out, certainly if you want to open a store, you can dump as much money as you want to dump into it. But I tried to do it as conservatively as possible because I was spending my money, as you would even if you were spending investors' money. So, no, I didn't have to do that. I imagine that would be a very difficult thing to do, particularly a business like mine. But again, so it's just my money that I'm out of, which, in some ways is not stressful because I don't have to answer to anybody else. In some ways it is because that money is gone, and hopefully I'll get it back someday, but I've yet to see all of that money come back.
Oh,
Talk about more about the product design process. How did you select materials, things like that, to actually put in your storefront? I mean, there are so many different avenues you could have taken. What made you decide this is what represents Jack and Jane?
Well, again, I wanted a male and female component to it too. Originally, the idea was just going to be apparel and associated gear. So you get out there and you start looking at blogs. You start searching trends in that area. There's what I saw in Columbia, certainly, and I could tell. I mean, I was watching it 4 hours, 3 and 4 hours a day. So you can pick up on a lot of, I guess you'd call it market research that way. But then again, you start looking outside of your own little, zip code area. You start looking to see what, on a national level, think people are interested in, what's becoming popular. And so I'd kind of and that's now feelers to different vendors too, because some vendors would have outrageous minimum buys. There was no way I was going to do a buy of $30,000, not for this business. Maybe get there, but not to start out this, but with one vendor in particular. So some of it was kind of the feedback you would get from the different vendors out there that you like their product, but if they were going to be too difficult to work with, it wasn't worth it to keep going. And then others you just take a risk on, and not everybody. I don't have all the same business, the vendors, the products that I started out with. So some have been new, brought in, and then some of the old ones have phased out. Shoes were an addition that we didn't start out with, but we added because we could see the need. There are a couple businesses in town that do it. One's very far away, and then the other caters to just a running crowd. And again, I'm not very good at running. I do it, but I'm not very good at it. And I knew that was a little bit intimidating to some people. So we decided to sort of dabble in shoes a little bit and outfit as many people as we could without dumping major money into becoming a shoe store. And so that was one of the ways. So that's an evolving business idea that we didn't start out doing, but we realized, okay, we should do this, and that one's been paying off us pretty well.
So when did you decide that this is it, this is now, this is the timeline? Did you just set a date and say we're going to do it by this day and then plan around that date, or did you just plan until you got ready?
I was absolutely stir crazy. I'd been thinking about the ideas, and I've been saying, okay, what am I going to do? When should we do it? When should we do it? When should we do it? And I just became absolutely stir crazy. And I had it, and I knew, you just kind of know. It's time to do that. If you've read, I don't know if many of you have read Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg. She talks a lot. Women in particular will think through things, and then we'll talk ourselves out of things, and we'll, And again, I've even decided I need to stop. I need to think less and act more, because I was certainly guilty of that for a while. But I knew at some point I couldn't. I just was getting too crazy. I couldn't do it. I'm not very, as I said, I'm not very patient. So once I decided to do it, it was okay. Well, what's the quickest avenue to do this? And so that was it. I mean, it was just sort of a feeling that I didn't want to delay it anymore. I was tired of thinking about it. I was tired of planning, and I knew that if I didn't eventually jump into it, then again, what else was I going to do? I felt compelled to do it.
First of all, thank you for being here tonight. You mentioned earlier customer service. You all use that to really differentiate yourself from the bigger guys.
Right.
Like the big sporting goods.
Right.
When it comes to e-commerce, how do you go about building that relationship and that customer service interaction to really capture the business online when you don't have a brick and mortar store as well as that concierge interaction?
Well, that's harder for sure. That's where your social media accounts can be very helpful. If you can develop, and you'll have to tell me, if you can develop a personality on your Twitter, Instagram, Facebook accounts, then you can start dialogues with people because they'll contact. I mean, we'll get private messages directly from customers who are in various locations. So that's certainly when you ship out a package. In our case, we want people to know this is coming from a small business in Columbia, South Carolina. So I'll write a note that goes in the packages that go out. So again, it's still a arm's length transaction on e-commerce, but because now you can get to anybody anywhere in some form of communication, there's still a way to try to build that personal relationship with them. And even again, if I never do that, if I just get an order that comes on the website, then I'll make sure I include that personal touch just to get them to order from me in the future if they think about us. And I'll say that. If we can help you with anything else in the future, please let us know, and I'll include my business card. So that's typically the way I try to do it, just try to reach out somehow.
You first started out in this business, you didn't have a lot of business experience, and if you were to do it over, you would get some experience first.
Right.
So how did you overcome that barrier in the beginning, and what was the most important business lesson you learned after you started?
As far as how I overcame that, it would be arrogance and stupidity, because I didn't know that at the time. I figured, well, why not? What's the harm? What could I was not going to disappoint any investors except myself. I didn't have to really, again, I didn't have to answer to anybody. So if it failed, it failed. And I figured I'd just learn, and to be fair, I had known a couple of small business owners, and they were like me too. They just said, just do it, it'll be fine, just do it. And I said, okay, okay, all right, I'll do it. So the getting the business experience, the regret of not having the business experience came later. When I realized that, again, I'd made some of those mistakes, and that could have been saved if I'd known what I was doing. So again, you don't always know ahead of time what you don't know. And you figure that out later. So that's a hard one to kind of say, well, what do I need to know to open this business? You don't know. I mean, business plans, I've done many business plans that, as Ron said, could be tossed out as soon as the ink's dry, because everything changes. And so you can plan and you can think you know what's going to happen, but you just can't.
Here's a question.
I have one. Can you speak to the emotional challenges that entrepreneurs face?
Yeah, it's again, it's the you wake up and the worrying about burning down the store in the middle of the night came in December. Now, if you're in retail, December is the 1 month where you should not be losing sleep, because you're not worried about cash flow, because in retail in December is fabulous. Nobody has any complaint. Well, typically you don't have any complaints about retail in December. So instead you worry about other things that are just completely ludicrous. Again, there's always something that's weighing on your mind. In my case, at least, I don't know about other people, but so that's one of the emotional tolls that it takes. You can never shut it off. Now, other people will claim that's a hallmark of an entrepreneur. You never can shut it. You can never shut it off, and so you're always thinking of things. That's got its pluses and minuses. It'd be nice to shut it off for a little while. So when things are going well, you're still thinking about what can I do better? How can we take this and run with it? How long is this good momentum going to last? And then when things aren't going well, it's just more of the same. Yes, ma'am.
I have more of a comment than a question. As an entrepreneur myself, I wanted to recommend, as a small business owner, participating in a Kaufman Foundation, partner with the City of Columbia and Midlands Tech, have a fast track growth venture program. And it's really awesome for entrepreneurs to really sit down and think about your business, think about the accounting, the legal, your marketing aspects, how to reach your customers. It's a really great program. Also, the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program, which was phenomenal. I graduated in November, but it was a great opportunity to network with small business owners across the country, not just here in Columbia locally, but to network outside. So now my question comes. As a small business owner, you're right. We're always thinking, ideas are always coming up, figuring out how to turn an idea into an opportunity. How do you channel that? Do you meet with other entrepreneurs and talk about business ideas and talk about, our pains in our business? Do you have a group that you partner with, or have an opportunity to talk with and see
Well, right. That's a good point. Twofold. One, get to know as many people as you can, get as much help as you can, particularly stuff that's isn't going to cost you a lot of money. That may save you from making a mistake later. So absolutely take advantage of those programs. Um, Two, yeah, when something occurs to you or when you're struggling with something, you're going to immediately reach out to your people. You know, the people that work with you or the people that you talk to on a daily basis. Sometimes they understand. I mean, sometimes they're going through the same thing if they're another business owner. Sometimes you need to expand the reach a little bit. So, for example, the incubator, where's Laura? The incubator has the exchange program, which is a woman's, just a woman's business networking program. But it doesn't need to be women's only. I mean, that's in some ways that puts men out there when they should be in the conversation too, or you want them in the conversation too. So, I mean, I'll reach out to Iran if I can get his time, and ask for help if I have a question there. So that's where that network of people that you've gotten to know, particularly people in the business or in a business of any sort, probably can help you with something, or at least they can give you their thoughts on it. And those opinions are valuable. Whether or not you tend to use them, you got to make your own call. But those opinions can be valuable.
I have one more question. As a mom and entrepreneur, how hard is it for you to balance the responsibilities of both? And do you allow your son to participate in some of the strategic thinking about your product and who's using it? Because children may even, use your product.
I allow him to have as much involvement as he chooses to. He does not choose to have that much involvement anymore once I made it a choice. So, I'll say this: as a mom, your best bet is to get a wife if you can. And I mean a traditional, good old-fashioned wife who will do all your work for you. That would be fabulous. If you can get a stay-at-home spouse, that would be fabulous too. Along those lines, whether it's no matter who he or she is, that would be great. If it's beyond that, a really trusted caregiver is also great. Owning your own business, you have flexibility, of course, and so I've not had to abandon all of those mom duties, fortunately. But I've also had a lot of help along the way, and I appreciate that very much. It's the whole "can women have it all" question. I think is very hard to answer. I don't know. I'm not sure about that. It would sure help. It sure helps if you have good care to help out and somebody that you trust, certainly. But again, my son was also older when I got started. And doing it with a newborn would have been, I imagine, extremely challenging, or a young child would have been extremely challenging because he was in school at the time, and now he's getting to that age where he can either be present with me and help, truly, or not be present, as is his preference many times. Then my life's a little bit easier had I done it than had he been younger when I started.
What sort of help have you gotten from your vendor? Do they come in and have maybe a person who comes in and meets with you and actually can help you be more successful? Do they do that?
To some extent, they're going to teach you their products. They're going to give you sales tips. This is where you can learn from the vendor's sales strategy. Sometimes I agree with that, and sometimes it's very useful, and sometimes I don't. When there's products that are generally only suitable for a certain group of people, I'm not going to try to sell it to everybody else, and the vendor may wish that I did. So there's a little bit of support as far as training about the products are concerned, but to my knowledge, that's about the limit.
We have time for just a couple more questions.
I've got one. Just wondering, how do you tackle growth? Because time and time again, we've seen that most entrepreneurs grow so fast, they grow to bankruptcy. And you said that you're very impatient or...
Well, that's true. That's true. How do I tackle growth was the question. The bank sometimes helps me tackle growth because, as you said, you can grow to bankruptcy. So when you think about, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with the lean startup concept, when you think about what you're going at, I mean, every new project is a startup project, even within your own business. So what could you afford to do, and what's the cheapest way to do it? And hopefully that'll still be effective. I'm not patient, so for example, if I did decide to go with the new consignment idea, for example, that's going to cost me very little, unless I decide to add a high-tech component to it. That I don't know what that costs, so that's why I need to consult with my colleagues here. So again, sometimes growth is what you can reasonably afford to do if I needed to seek outside funding. And I've got to decide how much of my own money do I want to potentially invest in this business versus how much do I want to look outside for funding sources. But you're right. How do you? It's usually it's a self-answering questions. How do you tackle growth in the face of finances? Well, sometimes your finances are going to control your growth. I mean, that's just how you can't ignore that part of it.
With not being able to turn it off, how do you pick which ideas you want to go with and which ideas that should stay on the table?
Darts, a dartboard. I mean, the ones you can afford, the ones you can try, and the ones you could shut down if they don't work. I mean, we've thought about things that and I think what's the worst that could happen, and well, the worst is going to happen. You don't do it anymore. You're not going to hurt it. In my business, I'm not going to hurt anybody, thankfully. I'm not, so things that I can do, I'll do. Things that have low failure costs, I'll try. I'm more likely to try. Things that are very expensive and risky, okay, that one's going to sit on the back burner until I've thought it out a little bit. When I consult more of my people, and maybe the pump the brakes guy isn't necessarily saying pump the brakes on that one anymore, then that's kind of what you have to risk, cost, all those things go into consideration. Well, you have to have. I mean, there are certain guidelines, and I've maybe we'll get there. That'll be the 5-year plan. You have to be profitable for I don't know how many business after its inception, and then you've got to assume franchising itself is very expensive to the person franchising. You've got to assume you can handle those costs as well. So maybe ultimately. Franchising is a great idea because it obviously puts the burden on somebody else as opposed to just opening multiple locations. But then again, in a digital age, would you rather not put the money towards expanding your online presence so you can sell to more people maybe instead of having somebody else pay you a fee to sell? And I don't know. I mean, that's something I'll cross that bridge when I hopefully get there pretty soon. I'll let you know.
Have built really great relationship with your customers. Some of them even text you to ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
Like how were you able to build that trust in the beginning to get them comfortable using your number and questions?
Well, sometimes it's just when they're the longer they're in the store, the more times they come back to the store. You just build a rapport. It's only a few instances when I've thought to myself, okay, this person's not going to get my cell phone number because that's not such a great idea. There are a couple of them, but for the most part, I mean, again, particularly if you're dealing with customers who you can tell are a little insecure, and maybe they, not insecure in a truly terrible way, but I mean, this may be in a product or even a genre that they're not incredibly comfortable in. I don't have any problem with them having my cell phone number, and I don't have any problem with them. And sometimes it's a time schedule for them. They'll say, "Hey, text me pictures of these 3 items," and I'll just send it. And it's a faster way to do business, truthfully. And if I can relate to them that way, that makes their life easier. They're more likely to bring me their business because I know they can't text the manager of Dick's, nor would I want them to. So sometimes it's just rapport when they come in, and then sometimes it's just, and frankly, that's an easier way for me to do business lots of times. So it benefits me as well as them. As to why they trust me, maybe because I'm not going to talk them into spending more money than they need to.
I have one question, if it's okay.
Yep, go ahead.
As a business owner, I know our goal is always to work on the business, not in it. And one thing that a lot of startups and small business do is we do everything. We wear a lot of hats. How beneficial has it been for you to build your team, and not only building it, but what contributions do you make to the company now? Like, what are your roles?
I still do a lot. I mean, I need to work on delegating a little bit better too. So I still try to have some involvement in most aspects of it. And but I mean, I'll outsource things too. I mean, I'm not going to try to do everything. It's not like I've got a screen printer in the back of the business and I'm screen printing my own T-shirts or that sort of thing. I'll send out what I can, but it's still, I'm there a lot. I'm there most days. I'm very present in the business. around. People can run businesses without being there. They can do startups without being there, but I imagine that's very difficult to do. So I'm around a good bit, and so I'm still more than I should probably in a lot of different areas. I'm still the one making the calls. I need to get a better maybe support staff that can kind of tell me to check out on this one so they can do their jobs. But yeah, I'm there a lot. Put it that way.